The storm that was supposed to ruin Valentine's Day just became a nightmare scenario. What started as a typical severe weather threat has morphed into something meteorologists didn't see coming. A dangerous multi-hazard storm is exploding across the United States right now, bringing widespread impacts that will devastate Valentine's Day weekend. We're not just talking about severe weather anymore. This system is unleashing damaging winds, large hail, flooding rains, tornado threats, and now a shocking twist that has models completely split on whether millions could wake up to heavy snow. This isn't your average February storm system. What began as a straightforward severe weather setup has evolved into a meteorological monster that's keeping forecasters on edge and emergency managers scrambling to prepare for multiple simultaneous threats across half the country. Let me walk you through exactly what's happening right now, because the complexity of this storm system is unlike anything we've tracked this season. Today kicks off with significant severe weather potential across the southern United States, but that's just the opening act of a much larger weather drama about to unfold. The severe weather threat has been upgraded to a slight risk across Houston, Texas, extending back into central Louisiana and southwestern Mississippi. But the marginal threat zone stretches much farther, covering an enormous area from southwestern Oklahoma all the way back into western Alabama. We're talking about millions of people in the path of potentially dangerous weather conditions. The biggest concern for today centers around damaging winds as a line of thunderstorms develops and strengthens throughout the day. We could see quarter-sized hail with some of the strongest storms, but there's another threat that has meteorologists particularly concerned: tornadoes. 23 million people are included in at least a low-end tornado threat for today. The highest tornado risk stretches from Houston, Texas, back into eastern Louisiana near Baton Rouge. This line of thunderstorms could produce embedded tornadoes this evening and into the overnight hours, creating a particularly dangerous situation for anyone in these areas. If you live anywhere in the threat zone, make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather alerts. Have a tornado action plan ready to go. Know where your safe room is located. This is the kind of setup that can turn dangerous very quickly once storms begin developing. But today's severe weather represents just the beginning of this storm's impacts. Sunday brings another heightened risk of severe weather across the southeast, and this one might be even more concerning than today's threat. We're expecting a line of thunderstorms to move across parts of Georgia and Alabama Sunday morning. By afternoon, there's a slight risk area driven primarily by tornado potential. The Storm Prediction Center has warned that strong tornadoes are possible Sunday across parts of the southeast. Here's what makes Sunday particularly dangerous. We could see discrete or semi-discrete supercells forming out in front of the main line of storms. These individual rotating thunderstorms have the potential to produce strong, long-track tornadoes, the kind that cause significant damage and threaten lives. The current tornado risk sits at 5%, which might not sound like much, but it's conditional on atmospheric setup. If conditions align correctly, we could see genuinely dangerous tornado activity across the southeast on Valentine's Day. Let me break down today's tornado threat in more detail, because the atmospheric setup is fascinating from a meteorological standpoint. We have our main corridor where the line of thunderstorms will push toward Houston and Lake Charles during afternoon hours. But there's something else developing that has my attention. Late today into evening hours, we could see a cold core tornado setup back over western Oklahoma and north-central Texas. This type of setup typically produces brief, weak tornadoes and funnel clouds rather than major tornado threats. Keep an eye on the sky this evening across western Oklahoma and Texas. You might see funnel clouds descending from the storm bases, and there's a possibility of brief tornadoes touching down in rural areas. Tonight, near Houston, the tornado threat becomes much more elevated as wind shear increases dramatically. We'll have abundant moisture streaming in from the Gulf of Mexico. If any discrete storms manage to form separate from the main line, the tornado potential becomes significantly higher. Otherwise, our tornado threat will be somewhat random along the line of thunderstorms. We'll continue monitoring tornado potential into overnight hours near Jackson, Mississippi, extending toward Mobile, Alabama, and eventually pushing into Florida by tomorrow morning. The timing for today's severe weather unfolds like a carefully choreographed but dangerous dance across the landscape. Across the southern plains, we're already seeing significant rainfall over Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas. There might be some rumbles of thunder, but severe weather probability remains low this far north. A large cluster of thunderstorms will persist throughout morning hours across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, extending toward Waco and San Angelo. While major severe weather isn't expected this morning, I wouldn't be surprised by isolated damaging wind gusts or even a brief tornado somewhere in this region. After lunchtime, this line of thunderstorms continues pushing eastward. Heavy rainfall will be ongoing across Arkansas, leading to localized flooding concerns. Our main severe weather threat stretches from Texarkana down toward Austin, Texas, where we're expecting scattered damaging winds around 60 to 65 mph. The tornado threat really ramps up after 5:1 p.m. Once we approach evening hours, this line isn't going anywhere. It will continue producing damaging winds anywhere from southern Arkansas back into Louisiana. Louisiana faces the greatest tornado threat during evening hours. Overnight hours maintain the tornado risk, though not at high-end levels. We'll still have the possibility of embedded tornadoes in the line near Jackson, extending toward New Orleans during overnight hours. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts and maintain situational awareness even while sleeping. Sunday's tornado threat follows a different pattern but carries equal concern. The threat should diminish around daybreak across Alabama and Mississippi. However, it rebounds during afternoon hours as wind shear increases once again. A small warm sector will develop across the Big Bend of Florida and southern Georgia, creating an environment where tornadoes become possible tomorrow afternoon. If discrete supercells develop, they could produce strong tornadoes. The greatest risk appears to be around Jacksonville, Florida, just north of Gainesville. This severe weather threat isn't far from where the Daytona 500 is happening, by the way. There's a low-end tornado risk extending even into central Florida, so maintain weather awareness throughout the region. Tomorrow's timing creates another complex severe weather scenario. The line of thunderstorms continues overnight tonight, falling apart around daybreak with mainly isolated damaging wind risks in central Alabama and maybe brief spin-ups scattered around. By tomorrow afternoon around lunchtime, we'll be watching a line of thunderstorms moving across Panama City. This represents where our heightened tornado risk develops. We could see strong tornadoes if discrete supercells form ahead of the main line. If those discrete supercells don't materialize, the primary threat becomes damaging winds and embedded tornadoes along the main line of storms. Around 12 bound to 1 p.m. tomorrow, this line continues pushing east. Any discrete supercells that do form will eventually merge with our main line around 3 to 4 p.m. over southeastern Georgia. By 5 to 6 p.m., this line of thunderstorms will literally be racing toward the Daytona 500, then continuing toward Orlando, where damaging winds become the primary concern. Brief tornado risk continues through about 7 p.m. tomorrow, then decreases significantly as the system moves toward Melbourne and Tampa Bay. The rainfall from this system will be substantial and beneficial for many areas that haven't seen significant precipitation recently. We're anticipating widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain from Dallas-Fort Worth and Abilene back toward Nashville, Tennessee. Some areas in Arkansas and near Memphis could easily receive 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Localized spots between Memphis and Little Rock might see 5 to 6 inches. While this represents good news for drought-stricken areas, there could be localized flooding in low-lying regions. But here's where this storm takes its most surprising turn. There's a possibility of snow across the mid-Atlantic and Northeast tomorrow. This isn't guaranteed right now, and it's extremely difficult to forecast, because everything depends on storm track and intensity. Models have been trending slightly northward over the past 24 hours, which could mean a large area of snow tomorrow evening across Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, and southern New England. Right now, we're expecting coating to 3 inches for most areas, but if this scenario unfolds, we could easily see much more. Some localized areas could receive 6 to 8 inches of snow if the storm intensifies rapidly as it moves offshore. The GFS model actually shows this exact scenario, rapid intensification creating significant snowfall totals. We need to monitor this situation very closely. The model discrepancy for tomorrow night's possible snow event is absolutely crazy, and we're only about 48 hours away from this potential impact. The GFS model shows widespread 6 to 10 inches of snow from Washington, D.C. into eastern New Jersey, with Long Island seeing 3 to 6 inches. The European model shows hardly anything, just a coating to 3 inches. The National Weather Service forecast shows basically nothing, only a coating to maybe half an inch across parts of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. This kind of disagreement this close to an event makes forecasting extremely challenging. Beyond this weekend's threats, we have more concerns developing for Tuesday and Wednesday. A very powerful atmospheric river event will impact the west coast, with some of that energy moving over the Rockies into the northern plains. A large winter storm threat becomes likely by late Tuesday and Wednesday across the northern plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes. Another storm could follow Thursday and Friday. The European model, which has been very accurate this winter, indicates decent snowfall chances by week's end across the Midwest and Northeast, possibly including freezing rain. This represents a pattern shift toward more active winter weather that could persist well beyond next week. Multiple storm systems lining up in succession suggests we're entering a more volatile weather period that could bring various threats to different parts of the country. What makes this entire weather pattern so concerning is the simultaneous nature of multiple threats. We're not just dealing with severe weather or snow, we're managing flooding, tornado risks, damaging winds, and potential heavy snow, all within the same 48-hour period across different regions. Emergency management officials are preparing for complex scenarios where resources might be stretched thin across multiple states, dealing with different but equally dangerous weather conditions. This kind of multi-hazard event tests every aspect of our weather preparedness and response systems. The Valentine's Day timing adds another layer of complexity, as many people have travel plans or outdoor activities scheduled that could be significantly impacted by this storm system. Weather awareness becomes absolutely critical when plans involve multiple states or regions that could be affected by different aspects of this storm. This storm has evolved from a routine severe weather threat into something much more significant and complex. The combination of severe thunderstorms, flooding rains, tornado potential, and surprise snow possibilities creates a forecast challenge that requires constant monitoring and updates as conditions develop. Stay connected to reliable weather information sources over the next 48 hours. This storm system will likely continue evolving and could surprise us with additional impacts or intensity changes. Weather events this complex remind us why meteorological forecasting remains both challenging and absolutely critical for public safety.